All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the live stream. This week we're going to be doing another Instagram photo critique, and this will be photo critique number 8, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll just wait here for a second to get let some people join the chat room, and we will get started here shortly. So give me a second to get on my windows ready here. I know it always takes me a minute to get my windows set up and all good to go for this live stream. So make sure I have all my photos in here, and then by the way, all the photos in order, all of the links to the photographer's Instagram accounts will be in the description below after the live stream. I'll put those in the notes below so you guys can follow them on Instagram. And I love doing this critique stuff. By the way, the photos that you get to see, the people you get to talk to, it's always cool, you know, getting a glimpse into to other people's photography and getting to see their work. And you know, a lot of times I'll be scrolling down the feed and I'm like, man, I don't need to critique that. I don't need to critique that. That's a really good photo. So we have one of those photos in here tonight, by the way, for the critique. We're going to be doing, I think it's the 4th photo. It's one that I have nothing to say about it other than it's just a perfect photo. I'm not going to critique it at all. This person should be critiquing my work. It's just a brilliant black and white portrait. The processing is brilliant. The composition is brilliant. He captured a brilliant moment. So, well, as you guys are joining, let me pull up my live chat here so I can make sure I have everyone, all my windows in one place, and I can be chatting with you guys here. I'm going to pull that up, and at the same time, I'm going to get my Photoshop window in order, because as you can tell, I'm super prepared and organized. All right. If you guys have any questions, by the way, of course, keep leave them in the live chat in between critiques. I'll keep checking that live chat before, and I'll check it as well, like right before I get into the chat. All right. Right. Cool. All right, let me see if I can pull up my live chat now. I got my Photoshop window ready. Should be good here. There we go. Chad, what's up, man? Do you only critique landscape? Nope, I do not. I critique all kinds of photography, portrait, landscape, anything really. So if you have taken it, then use my hashtag and I will critique it. I think Instagram photo critique number 2, maybe number 2 or 3. I critiqued a lot of street photography. And street photography is always fun to critique because, it's really tough to critique actually, because street photographers are really just looking for that moment, and it's hard to think about composition and all these other things in the moment. You're just looking for kind of a moment to unveil itself, and then you just quickly grab the photo. So it keeps me, I think, on my feet and kind of a better photographer to critique other people's work, because I start to remind myself of the basics and all the technical stuff, and it really helps me be a better photographer too. So I think by critiquing, it really just, it helps everyone out. Okay, I think we're good to go here. All right, cool. Well, if you guys, like I said, have any questions or anything you want to say, or even feedback, by the way, I encourage feedback on these critiques as well. And I'm sure the photographers that submit these photos want your feedback as well. So if I'm in the middle of the critique and you guys have something to say about the photo and you think, you have a suggestion, of course the photographer is going to want to hear it, because we all just simply want to be better at what we do. So let's see, Chad says, yep, I hashtagged FME critique. Okay, perfect. So then I will make sure I get one of yours next week then, Chad. Because I know you're typically on almost every single one of my live streams now here lately. So I don't really look at the names as much. I just kind of look at the photo and grab one that I think needs critiquing. But I've said this 100 times before. So if your photo hasn't been critiqued yet, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that like I just don't like your work or something. Typically, it's because I think your work is very, very, very good, and I don't have much to say about it. So don't think that I'm just ignoring you. There's I think 520 photos right now tagged to my FME critique, so it just takes me a little while to get to them. But I will take a look at your Instagram, Chad, and I will make sure I feature one of your photos next week. Zoom Chris says, "What's up, Eric? Good to see you, man." Hey, what's up, Chris? How you doing? All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get started here. Let me go over to my Photoshop window and we will start the critique. All right, so here we are on the first image, and right away, I think that this image has a beautiful composition. I think the composition was actually, near perfect. And the reason I say that is because you have this landmass here in the foreground. So there's this little bit of rock here, and then you have the landmass over here. And so what's beautiful about that composition is that all the water in between actually makes sense as a midground because it's framed. This water all around here is being framed by this landmass and this landmass. So the water is actually in the perfect place, in my opinion, in this particular composition. And then I like how there's just enough sky to give us, a nice amount of cloud. And then I like, of course, the interest on the landmass, which is the lighthouse and some houses over here. This actually kind of reminds me of a scene from the movie Jaws. It kind of looks like Amity Island. So here's what I would say. I think technically, like the composition, the color, the processing, I think all of that is actually really, really good. I really only have one kind of creative suggestion, I would say, for this photo. I think this photo could have been, and by the way, this photo right now is actually really good, but I think it could have been even cooler or better if you had access to an ND filter and softened up the water a bit more. I don't know if I would have done an extremely long exposure, but I think it's always nice when you soften up the water, especially since the water is standing in between my eye and the main subject, which is this lighthouse. Whenever there's too much motion in the water and there's these waves crashing and stuff, it's cool, but it's a little bit distracting to my eye trying to make my way to the main subject, which I'm assuming is the lighthouse, and then, of course, the clouds up here. And then the midground and foreground down here are just kind of complementary and just helping my eye move to the lighthouse. But the only thing that's not helping my eye is the water because there's so much motion going on. So I think maybe a 2 or 3 second exposure would have done it here for the water, would have really just helped the eye flow along a little bit. And then I think another cool suggestion, and this is really, the sky is beautiful as it is now, but I think it would have been really cool, and it would have made the white lighthouse stand out a little more if you let the clouds blur. If you did maybe like a 30 or 40 second exposure on the clouds with like a 10 stop or 16 stop ND filter, and you just let the clouds go crazy streaking across the composition. If you would have done that, there would have been a lot less, because I don't want to say the clouds are distracting, but it's because the color of the clouds are almost the exact same color of white as the lighthouse. It's kind of making me kind of drift away from the lighthouse, because I know the lighthouse is probably the main subject in the composition, and so it's just one of those small things. I think if you would have let the clouds streak, there would have been big pockets of blue, and the clouds would have just been a kind of a complementary element, and it would kind of have made the lighthouse kind of three-dimensionally pop out of the composition a little more. That's just my opinion. So other than that, though, really that's about all I have to say about this one. Like I said, the clouds, the color, the color, I would say there's almost no processing that went into this. It looks like maybe some contrast and some vibrance, and that's about it. It looked like it was just a really nice scene, and you did a beautiful job capturing it. So, again, thank you so much for submitting the photo. I would say it's like 95% great, and just those couple of little suggestions to make things a little better for next time would have just helped it along that much more. But again, that's where it comes down to taste. So completely up to you. All right, let's check the chat window here before we go on to the next photo. Let's see here. Let me pull up my chat and refresh the page. Everyone doing good in the chat over here? Yep, we're doing good. All right, cool. Moving right along. All right, again, if you guys have any feedback for the photographers, feel free to leave that in the chat so that, and I'll gladly, say that while we're live so that that photographer knows that you guys have a suggestion as well. But what do you guys think about my comments on the long exposure? I'm always curious because there's a lot of photographers that hate softening water and especially hate softening the clouds, but I tend to love that kind of stuff. Let's see, live chat. Luke says, how do you feel about cinemagraphs? Can you be a little more specific? because I think I know what you're talking about. But before I go on a long explanation, if you could be just a little more specific of what you mean, like a moving photograph, like something like plotograph, if that's what you're talking about. If so, I think they're really, really cool for marketing your photos and kind of getting attention on social media. All right, let's get back to the critique here. Let me pull up my Photoshop window again, and we'll move on to photo number 2. All right, so here's photo number 2, and so here's my thoughts on this one. It's tough because I actually think the composition is quite nice. You can definitely tell what the photographer was trying to do, right? There's a waterfall right here in the foreground. There's this nice little waterway that makes its way back into infinity, right? Just kind of nowhere, it disappears, which is nice. And then there's a nice little bridge back here. So it's a very nice scene, right? It's a very happy looking scene. My issue is I think it was just simply captured at the wrong time of day. That I think is kind of the main issue. You can see there's harsh lighting everywhere, very, very high contrast lighting. And because of that, it's putting some really bad shadows on the water and in the foliage surrounding the waterfall there. And so this is another case where I think kind of a soft lighting and an ND filter softening up the water would have made all the difference, because there's also, if we zoom in back here, there's also some really nice reflections back here from the foliage in the little waterway. And if that would have been smoothed out with an ND filter, I think that the smooth water would have really accentuated those the reflections. The reflections all along here, the reflections here. It would have just made everything nicer in the waterway. And then, of course, it would have the different lighting situation and an ND filter would have made the waterfall here look a lot better. So, for example, when I look at this as a viewer or as a photographer, whatever you want to call it, the first thing my eye goes to is this big, bright patch of grass right here. And that's an issue because obviously that's not what you want the subject of the photo to be. You want people to be looking at this beautiful waterfall and the waterway and then the bridge back here. And that's like the last thing that I look at. If you want to know, can I get inside my head for a minute? My eye does exactly this. My eye goes here to the land, and then it immediately shoots down here and follows this high contrast line of the water bank here. And then as soon as it gets here, it kind of veers away from the waterfall and looks at this really bright rock right here. And then right after the rock, I think my brain goes, oh wait, the rock is kind of the same color and the same brightness level as this back here. So then I shoot back to the bridge, and then I follow the waterway back and finally go, oh yeah, there's a waterfall here. So think about that when you're taking a photo. Look through your camera as a viewer, as if you're looking into an image that you've already taken. What does your eye do when you look at the image? How does your eye flow through the scene? There is such a thing called eye flow, and it's simple. It's the direction that your eyes go and now everyone is different, by the way, too, but you can do things compositionally and in post-processing to control eye flow through your scene. So ask yourself next time you're on location, what direction do your eyes flow through the scene? Does it actually flow the way you want people to go to your scene? Does it flow to where your subject here is first, and then it follows up the waterway? It sounds like you're belittling the viewers, but I'm just going to say it, because you don't want to quote belittle your viewers, but it comes down to not everyone has a nice creative brain like photographers and artists and do. So we have to make it super simple for our viewers to make their way through our work, right? We just want to lay it out there. Now, sometimes it's fun to make it a little complicated and throw in some abstract art and some abstract shapes, and that's actually fun, and those can make really great photos too. But for the most part, if we're trying to sell a print or market work for a company to buy, they're gonna buy the photo and they're gonna commission the photographer that has the easiest work to look at, to where they can look at the portfolio, look at the images, look at 3 to 5 images, and make their decision right there. Boom. That's the photographer I want to work for or work with. That, those are the photos I want for my company or my gallery or whatever. You want to make it easy for people to look at, because in real world situations, like I said, with companies looking for photographers or people going into a gallery, they don't always study, the image for 15 or 20 minutes. They want to kind of get what's going on after a few seconds. And then they might step back and look at some of the underlining details that you've left in the photo. And that's what you want. You want them to kind of look at it and go, wow, beautiful. Oh, wow, I didn't notice there was a waterfall, and look, birds in the sky, and all these great things start to piece together. You want to kind of control the eye flow first and then go from there. If you want to add little special details and stuff in the photo. Let me check the live chat here again. Luke says, yes, I always want to be low to the waterfall or above, looking straight down for size and scale reasons. Yeah, so I'm assuming you're saying yes to the cinemagraph. So yeah, I think cinemagraphs are super cool. I'm actually, I saw that Plotograph, which is that software where you can kind of animate your photos, they came out with an app for iOS. I'm not sure if it's on Android or not yet, but I'm going to get it for my iPhone and my iPad. And I think it's going to be really cool because you can export it as an animated, I think a GIF and a PNG, and you can export it in all these different file types so that Instagram and Facebook can read it. And you can really, I think that's a really cool way of building a social following, is by separating yourself. And not a lot of people right now, there are hundreds, but I'm not so sure there's tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, photographers specifically, marketing their work using Plotograph or using these animated GIFs for their work and really adding that sense of motion. So really you're kind of separating yourself from the rest of the industry if you're an early adopter for that kind of stuff. Luke says, I got it. It's awesome. Yeah, you got Plotograph. Cool. And Luke says MP4. Okay, cool. So if you export as an MP4, what, just so that everyone knows, and so I know, if I want to put one of the Plotograph photos on Instagram, what format would you do? Do you just export it to Instagram and post it as an MP4 and it's like an ever looping video or something, or is it a GIF or a PNG? I'm curious about that. So I'll check back with the chat after you when you answer that. I'm gonna go back to photo number 3 here. Pull back the Photoshop window. 1 second. All right, so here we are on photo number 3. Now this one is really cool. It's hard to critique this one because when I saw this one, I thought this was one of the coolest black and white photos I've seen in a while. The main reason I think it's awesome, not only is the shape of this building right here, this main building, the shape of the building is awesome, but it almost looks like this is some kind of miniature building, and the photographer was using a studio strobe and did like a really harsh studio strobe side lighting right here, and then it just kind of slowly feathered off and became a softer light as it just basically fell off into a deep black contrast. So I think the lighting on this photo, which is probably comes down to processing as well, is just beautiful. I think it's a beautiful black and white photo. I love the way it's super harsh up here and then just slowly falls off into this soft shadow of contrast. So love that. I would have liked to see this photo in color, just so that I could see it. My mind could wrap myself around, what it looked like before it got this transformation. Unless, of course, maybe this photographer shot this on an X-T2 in like an Acros simulation. Then it just came right out of the camera, black and white. Who knows? That could have been very possible because this is a very, very cool black and white photo. It has these very cool light characteristics. The only thing I would say about this one mainly is that while this is awesome, this big building, what's taking my attention away from a lot of it is this side building poking into the corner over here. There's nothing good about it. There's nothing about that building that is doing anything positive for this photo. And it's a shame because this photo is awesome. I mean, just awesome. It's super cool. So I think that cloning this out, or doing a lasso tool in Photoshop and letting it letting Photoshop do its thing, it could have been really nice. So I mean, let me just show you how easy that is real quick. If we just try that real quick, let's grab our lasso tool. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but we'll try it. And just draw a shape around this with the lasso tool. We'll right click inside of it, hit fill and content aware, and look at that, it just disappears. So there's a couple little spots right there you can get rid of. But I mean, that took me, what, 10 seconds? And so that's the kind of stuff that now this photo looks awesome. You could even crop it a little bit if you wanted to. So I just think that the lighting is just awesome on this. And that fixed it for me. Getting rid of that building just fixed it. So let me undo that so we can take it back to what it was. You see how that pops back in there and it just starts to ruin the eye flow and just the way my eye travels through the photo. I don't know, it almost, when I look at this building here, my mind starts to get really imaginative, and I'm starting to think, well, maybe this is on like some foreign planet, or maybe this is an apocalypse, or, you know, this is some kind of crazy situation in outer space, or this is, you know, who knows where this is. This building is crazy looking. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, this just looks like a regular apartment building in Manhattan or something. And now all of a sudden my super creative, mysterious imagination has just been brought back to reality with this gross building. So that's why I would remove it, if you must know, because I think this is 5-star, and then this just takes away all the mystery and the imagination away from the composition. And I want to know what you guys in the live chat think as well. If you agree with me or if you think I'm wrong, let me know. I want to give the photographer multiple sources of feedback here. All right, so that's that one. I think it was just as simple as getting rid of that building and maybe a little crop, and it's just golden. It's beautiful. All right, let's get back to the live chat here. See what's going on over here. Let's see. All right. Luke says, select the Insta badge and it will format for you. Oh, okay, cool. On the photograph photo. Luke says, what's your Middle Earth email? I'll send you one. You can also choose Twitter, FB, etc., and email choice as well. Okay, cool. Wow. So you can actually post it from the social media from the app, from the photograph app. That sounds cool. My email is eric@findingmiddleearth.com. So yeah, I'd appreciate it if you sent me one. That'd be awesome. I'd like to take a look at it. Excuse me if I mispronounce your name. Is it Taiwan? He says, this is just a general question. I've been shooting photos for fun for a month with the XT2. What do you recommend for general uses besides the XF 18 to 55? Well, I'd have to ask, what is the 18 to 55 not doing for you? Do you want to get further in, telephoto, or do you want wider? So I would say if you're doing another photo, if you're doing photos that are just general stuff, kind of versatile everything, I would add the 55 to 200 telephoto into your kit, because it's light and well priced like the 18 to 55, and it also has the killer OIS like the 18 to 55, and it's a stellar lens. I mean, it's just it's a great value for the lens. Of course, you can get the more expensive 50 to 140 if you want, and it is worth every penny of it. But the 55 to 200 is worth every penny as well. So there isn't really a bad Fuji lens, to be honest. So yeah, I would probably recommend the 55 to 200 to be your next lens, so that way you have from 18 to 200 millimeters covered right now with two lenses, and that'll, it really gets you an equivalent. Since you're on an APS-C sensor, it really gets you about 300 millimeters on a 35 equivalent. So it just depends on if you want the big bulky 50 to 140, or if you want to keep it lightweight and compact like the 18 to 55 is, and the 55 to 200 will do you well. So really, it's up to you. Taiwan says, I have trouble shooting close shot with the 18 to 55. Do you mean... So you mean you need wider? Okay, well, if you want a wider lens, I would go, if you want like a wide angle lens, then I would go with the 10 to 24. That's pretty much your only option for a wide angle zoom, and it's a great lens. It has OIS as well. But I would take a look at the 16 millimeter 1.4 if you want. I mean, if you're okay with just going 2 millimeters wider, it's up to, I guess it's up to you how much wider you need. But the 16 millimeter 1.4 is a beautiful lens, and it's ridiculously sharp, and you can focus really, really close. The minimum focus distance is really, really impressive. So it just depends. If you want to go wider, I would probably go with the 10 to 24. Okay, let's check the chat again. Justin Hopgood says, hey, Eric. Hey, what's up, Justin? Chad Sifford says, get the 50 to 140. Yep, it's up to you. They're both great lenses. 50 to 140 is great. 55 to 200 is great. Depends on what you're doing with it. Because if you need the constant 2.8 aperture, if you're doing events or portraits, that might be something you need. Chad says the 2.8 is invaluable. Yes, it is. If that's what you need, it definitely is. 10 to 24. Taiwan says for macro shots. Are you asking if the 55 to 200 can do macro shots, or because if you want a macro lens for the Fuji X mount, there isn't like a true 1-to-1 macro, I don't think, but they do make the 60mm macro, and then a lot of people, so I haven't used it personally, so I can't vouch for it, but a lot of people like the Fuji mount Zeiss lens. It's the 50, 55, or 50mm macro. I think that's a 1-to-1 macro. So it's up to you. And then Chad says the 90 for macro, which I don't think the 90 is a true macro lens, but I know there are a lot of people you can use it for that for sure. So there's definitely options out there for you. But I would do some reviews on those because a lot of people hate the Zeiss Fuji mount lenses because they're not like true Zeiss lenses. I guess they're more kind of rebranded. But if you for the price, I do hear that the Zeiss macro is impressive, but I've never used it, so I can't say for sure. Justin says, I had the 50-140 and traded it for the 55-200, and I don't miss the 50-140. Trading that got me 2 lenses. Yes, so exactly. If you don't need, for the extra price and the extra weight and the 2.8, if that's not something you need, the 55-200 will get you more of a focal length. It will save you some money. And it will keep you lightweight and compact. But again, it's what you need. If you tell me you shoot events low light all the time and you need a 2.8 lens that, you're coming from a DSLR system and you shot 70-200, I wouldn't tell you to go 55-200. I would just tell you to get the 50-140 because that's going to resemble your, DSLR 70-200 2.8. Let's see. Thank you so much. Yep, no problem. Taiwan says this is really helpful. Awesome. I love being helpful. Justin says the 50-140 makes for some gorgeous portraits. Yes, it does. That 2.8 and just the image quality, the quality of the glass from that lens is beautiful. Justin says I'd go with that if I were shooting weddings. Yeah, definitely. Exactly. If you're doing events, weddings, you're doing, if you're doing a ton of event stuff, definitely go with the 2.8 version for sure. All right, cool. Now that I caught up on the live chat for now, let's see if we can get back to the next photo here. Let me get my Photoshop window back. All right, let's move on to the next photo. So this is the last photo, all right? And this one, I'm not critiquing. I'm just showcasing for this photographer because he submitted this, or he or she, I'm not sure who it is, but he or she submitted this for critique, and I just love it. I love it. Every once in a while, I'll get a photo that I don't know why I like it so much. I just do. And again, it's to taste. So there might be someone else that looks at this and say, oh, well, I think it needs a little bit of this and it needs to be recropped or it should have been closer in. I think this is great. I mean, it's just so emotional. You can tell that this is a poverty-ridden town of some sort, some kind of small village probably. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but that's what this is telling me. This guy, it's so interesting. This guy has this huge, probably really heavy, big chain around his neck that, I don't know, maybe came from his boat or maybe he's going to be using it to haul something. It looks like he's using a chain up here to kind of help grip this huge cement block or something he has carrying. I mean, that's going to be heavy. So the look that he's giving, all the expression right here is, I mean, it I don't know, it just makes you kind of sad, but it's also kind of mysterious because he looks like he almost wants to cry. Like if you zoom in, you almost wonder if his eyes are watering or something. I don't know. This is a very emotional photo, very dramatic. The black and white was perfect because it took all the attention away from maybe what could have been going on. Color that might have been back here, and it just drew everything into like right here for me. The whole photo is kind of inside this circle for me. The chain is crazy. It's just crazy looking, and then the expression on his face, you can see right here and right here, you can see sweat beads dropping off of his head. So, I mean, you can tell this guy gets up every morning and does some hard work for his family and probably gets paid no money for it. I mean, it's just one of those really cool, special moments that this photographer was able to capture. So, yeah, I don't have anything to say about this one. I think this photo is compositionally great. I think the processing is nice. The lighting is great. I mean, look at the way the light is just very. It's a feathered light, even though it's outside. I highly doubt this photographer used any artificial light, but I mean, it just looks like this nice soft feathered light from the back, and then it's almost a little harsh on top of his head, probably the sun just reflecting off of his skin, but it's so beautiful. There's just enough shadow under his eyes to make you wonder what he's thinking, and it's just enough contrast, but it doesn't completely black out his eyes. You can see from about here to here. And same here, and then right in here it just goes completely black and dark, and it's just awesome. I don't know. I like it. So what do you guys think about this one? I think this one's super cool, super special. I really dig this one. So, okay, so that is it for the photos. Really, really appreciate everyone for sending in their photos. You guys know it means a lot to me. I want to take a second to let everyone understand how brave it is, for someone to send this stuff in, knowing that it's going to be featured publicly and talked about by another photographer. There's a lot of people that daily they think that they've arrived at this perfection photographer thing. And even while I'm critiquing, I learn new stuff all the time, every day, every week. And you have to do that. You have to keep learning, because if you ever reach the moment where you think you've arrived and you're good enough to critique everyone's work, and you can't accept feedback from anybody because you're the best, the second that you realize that is the second that your photography career just fails miserably, because you can never think that you've arrived. You always have to keep working for something, set higher goals, and you never want to reach the point where you just think, okay, great, I can stop now. I've reached the pinnacle of my career. Done. Never think that way. So always keep getting better, always practice. And the fact that these people are willing to accept feedback and get their photos critiqued is super brave and awesome of you people. So it really does mean a lot to me that there's 500 and something people that have tagged their photos with this, because it shows that you're a very big person and that you're emotionally and intelligently in the right place for learning photography. All right, let's check back with the chat window here. Here we go. Justin says, that's incredible. Yeah, the photo's awesome. It tells a story. Yep, absolutely does. Chad says, agree. Taiwan, please explain what you'll be shooting. This will help the decision making. Tim C says, I don't think he's carrying that. It appears to be a column. Ooh, really? Let me take a look at that. Ah, you're right. See, that's just one of those things that I missed. Interesting. So I wonder, here, let me flip the camera back around to the Photoshop screen. Good eyes, Tim. Very good eyes. Let me go back to this. So yeah, you're right. If you zoom in down here, you can see a little bit of that the column there, that it goes all the way to the ground. Crazy. I totally missed that. Good eyes. Yeah, so that's crazy. So I wonder why. I don't know. I guess it's just for the photo, or maybe he's relaxing because he's got this big chain around that big cement column, and then he's got another chain around his neck. I don't know. It's still there's so much mystery, in my opinion, that goes into this. It just keeps me wondering, which is what you want out of a photo. It's super cool. So hey, good eyes, good catch. So he's not carrying that. Interesting. Well, that makes me feel a little more comfortable for that guy, by the way, because I was wondering how in the world is he carrying that thing by himself. It looks like it weighs 1,000,000 pounds. Very, very good catch there. Let's see. Justin says, that's a column used to punish slaves in the middle of town. My gosh. I hope not. Luke says, sent the cinematograph. Okay, cool. Thank you. I'll check that out. Yeah, just looking at that photo, I don't know. Like I said, it just makes me sad. Like, it just kind of breaks my heart a little bit for that guy. The guy looks like he wants to cry. So, because of that, it just makes for a very emotional, dramatic, and engaging experience. I think it's just a very moving photo. Different people are going to see different things. Obviously, I took away from it immediately that he was carrying something, and Tim immediately pointed out that it's a column. So different people are going to look at this different ways. It's always fun to see, what we take out of the photos. All right, well, before I end the video, since we've gotten through all the photos, I'll hang around for you guys to submit some questions in the live chat here, because I feel like this has been a relatively short stream. Let me check and see where we are. Yeah, we're up a little over half an hour, so I'll stay live for a little longer in case you guys have any more questions or anything. Let me get back over to my live chat window. Let's see. Taiwan says, what do you think of the XF 18 to 135 for general use? I've been shooting anything. I think the 18 to 135 is a very good lens for that kind of stuff. It's super good for travel because you can just do one lens and it'll take you through anything really. It's 18 to 135, so it gets you kind of semi-wide to semi-telephoto. But if you're on the APS-C sensor, it'll get you serious telephoto. It'll get you almost what the 50 to 140 will get you because you're at 135 on the long end. So, yeah, I think it's a good lens. I don't own the 18 to 135 because I have the 18 to 55, the 16 to 55, and the 55 to 200s, which just doesn't really fit in my kit. But I don't know. I never really liked the bulky size of it because it's kind of reminds me of the bulky size of the 16 to 55, which I'm not a huge fan of. I love the 16 to 55 lens. Like, I love the image quality and the glass is great. I just don't like how big and heavy it is. But I understand, it has to be. It's a 2.8 lens, so I get that. But I just didn't want another really heavy. Like I'll probably never buy the Fuji 50 to 140. Number one, because I don't need it. But number two, because I just don't want another. I have the Nikon 70 to 200 2.8, so I don't need the 50 to 140 Fuji. If I need a 2.8 70 to 200, I have it in my Nikon kit. Tim says, if he's carrying that much concrete, he's a tough dude. Yeah, that's right. Well, that's why I was thinking that. I was like, gosh, I feel so sorry for this guy. It seems like he was like being made to work like this. So, yeah. So it's good to know that's a column and that he's not having to carry that. Justin Hopgood says, if you already have the 18 to 55, you'd be better served getting something to complement your uses. 10 to 24, 55 to 200. Exactly. So especially if you're only going to go with one other lens, you got to figure out what you shoot more of. If you're just kind of a versatile everything shooter, then you might want to. Then I would probably just go with the 55 to 200. That way, you have from 18 millimeter to 50 to 200 millimeters covered in your bag with two lenses. So that's probably what I would do. Chad says, get a prime and use your feet to zoom. You could do that too. Like I said, there's not really a bad Fuji lens. You just have to. You have to figure out what you shoot most of, what genre you shoot most of, and go from there. Rent them. It's not that much money to rent this gear and try it out and see what you're lacking in one lens, or maybe you get one lens and it just solves all your needs. So, that's just going to be different for each photographer. Let's see. Jake says, Eric, I need to know what evil sorcerer cursed this 56 1.2, preventing me from ever removing it from my camera. Yeah, I know what you mean. So he says, I assume it's cursed and won't come off. I haven't actually ever tried to take it off. Yeah, I'll tell you what. So I bought the 56 1.2 when I first got my Fuji kit, okay? And I thought that this was my thought process, because a lot of people were thinking, okay, you're a landscape photographer, you teach landscape photography. Why in the world are you buying a 56 1.2? Makes no sense. I have a 15-month-old daughter now, and I was thinking, okay, all of my family portraits and all the portraits of my daughter, I'm going to shoot every single one with the 56 1.2. It's going to be done. And I did. I shot a lot of them. I shot a lot of them with the 56 1.2. But I just, for some reason, I kept going back to the 35 f2. So the 56 1.2, amazingly sharp lens, an amazing lens, but for some reason, it did not focus well in low light for me. The 35 f2, which is a newer lens, it's weather sealed. It's a prime, just like the 56, and it has the newer snappy autofocus system. My go-to now is the 35 f2. Now, I am sad that I sold my 56 1.2. I am. I just wasn't using it enough. And so I know what you mean, because it's a beautiful lens, but man, I always go to that 35 f2 now, because it's so fast to autofocus. It's ridiculously fast. It's ridiculously small and lightweight. It is weather sealed, and it's so good. The f2 bokeh rendering is not what you'd think. It's not like it's some world of difference from the 56 1.2. Obviously, the 56 1.2 has creamier bokeh, but man, I love the 35 f2. It's just a great lens. So, while I know what you mean on the 56 1.2, the autofocus is just a bit slow in that lens for the situations that I was using it in. So that's why I ended up really getting rid of it. But you can do the new 50 mil f2, and that has the new snappy autofocus that the 35 has. I haven't played with that lens. Yeah, I haven't actually rented it or bought it. I mounted it on my camera in a camera store, and that's all I've done. But I need to get that lens in for review. I need to see if I can do that. If someone will send me that. Let's see here. Because I don't get. I know there's a lot of photographers and YouTubers that get stuff sent to them by B&H and stuff. And I've never really thought about that, because I don't really review gear. I just review the gear that I own. But I'm going to see if there's some way I can rent it or something to get it in for review, because I really wanted to see how good that 50 mil f2 is. I hear a lot of good things about it. Let's see. Justin says, the advice about renting is really good. I wish I had done that. I happened to get my lens kit right, but that was after a couple of exchanges and a lot of research. Yeah, renting can really help a whole lot. It can save you a lot of hassle. Jake says, I love telephoto landscape shots. That background compression can be awesome. Exactly. That's where I use my 55 to 200. Every time there's like a big mountain range or whatever, and I don't want to just do the typical, wide vista shot, I do the 55 to 200. So that way it brings those mountains right in, and I can really focus on the lighting and the characteristics of the mountain. So yeah, that's what I use the 55 to 200 for. But you can most certainly use the 56 for that as well, because it is kind of a semi-telephoto. Let's see. You guys are talking to each other there. Let me get to another question. Justin says, I'll have to give that a shot. My 56 isn't on enough. Oh, cool. I didn't know you owned the 56, Justin. That's cool. Jake says, I have a coworker who has the 35 f2. It's also beautiful and focuses so fast. Yeah, I know. And so, for people that aren't watching the live chat, when Jake just said that, he put so fast in all capitals because it seriously does focus so fast. The 35 f2 really takes advantage of the Fuji X-T2 autofocus system. If you want to see how wicked fast the X-T2 is, put on the 35 f2 and you're going to just be freaked out at how fast it is. And I would imagine it would be the same with the 23 f2 and the 50 millimeter f2 because it's also pretty wicked fast with the 16 to 55 2.8. But the 55 to 200 and the 10 to 24 are a little slower to focus. Let's see. Justin says, I just got that one and love it for general use and street type shooting. Yes, absolutely. 35 is just what I use for my family stuff. Anything family related, that's what I use. Chad says, sold the 56. Blasphemy. Yeah, I know. I'm sad now that I sold it, but I just wasn't using it enough. And it's like $1,000 lens. So I figured if I, sold it, someone would get a secondhand good deal because I sold it for a good deal too. So at least I figured someone would use it. Jake says, I almost didn't think it was actually focusing. Yeah, the 35, I know, I thought the same thing because the second that I pressed the shutter button, it was there and it never had to really search unless I was in like a pitch black room or something. But yeah, it's ridiculous. Even in low light, I mean, unless you're in really, really low light, but I mean, in a dim room or a dim office with just fluorescent lighting or something, it was so fast. Which is nice, by the way, because the 35 on the X-T2 was like a 50 millimeter equivalent on the 35 mil, and for my Nikon camera, my D810, I was using the 50 millimeter 1.4 Nikon, and that is one of the slowest autofocusing lenses in the entire known world. It's just really bad. It's a great lens, beautiful lens. It's just bad at focusing. All right, well, I'm going to hop off here in just a couple minutes, so you guys shoot in your last questions. And, of course, this video will be available for replay after the fact, so you guys can watch that once YouTube does its processing and whatever. So, yep, you guys just throw in your questions or continue talking to each other, because I love this community we're building together. It's so fun to see. Like, I love it when you guys hijack the live chat and you guys are just doing your own thing. It makes me happy. Because I like knowing that I helped kind of bring other photographers together and we can all talk about cool fanboy stuff and kind of geek out together. Let's see. Justin says, take the vertical grip off and the X-T2 with the 35 feels like a point and shoot. Oh, heck yeah, it does. It's great. I love doing that. Like I said, I've said this before. When I go out with my family on like a day trip or just whatever, I mean, any kind of thing like that, we're just walking around town, I'll take the battery grip off and stick the 35 on, and it's like a little, it's like a little rangefinder, street photography camera all of a sudden. It's great. I see more people are joining the live show here. I always feel bad when that happens when I'm about to leave, because I'm about to get off here in about a minute, and I hate to see 2 or 3 people joining right when I'm about to leave. It's just bad timing. Justin says, take the oh no, I read that. Whoops. Jake says, a shot with the vertical grip for the first time today for an extended shoot, and it felt really great actually. Yeah, the ergonomics are great on it, and of course being able to have 3 batteries in the camera with the grip is awesome. Chad says, follow me on Instagram, peeps, at Chad Sifford. Cool, that's fine. I'm cool if you want to plug yourself in my live chat. No big deal there. This is an Instagram critique video, so I'm actually going to be using one of your photos next week there. So I'll throw up your, I'll be posting your link in the video next week, or your Instagram link in the description next week. Justin says, absolutely you did. I've never wasted a minute in these chats of your lives. Thank you, Justin. That means a lot. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hop off the stream here, try to get some sleep. I'm actually going on a early hike in the morning, and if all goes well, I think I'm going to make a vlog out of it, so that should be up maybe in a week or so if I end up vlogging the trip. So, as always, seriously, thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch the live show and just be here and chat with me and chat with other photographers and create this awesome community together. So, you guys have a great night, and I will see you guys in the next one.